Erev Tov Chavrim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live, and Russia will not accept Iran talking about wiping Israel off the map. In fact, if anything, one thing I really appreciate about what Foreign Minister Lavrov had to say in this meeting here that is spoken about here on TASS, Russian news agency, says Russia won't accept statements on destroying Israel or on fighting Iran. You know, the one thing that's, like I said, that's so nice about Russia is they're more balanced in their approach. It's not one extreme or the other, but it's equality in the Middle East here that they're looking for. But also the fact that the foreign minister of Russia was actually acknowledging Israel's right to exist and not accepting Tehran's belligerent statements about wiping Israel off the map. It says here that Russia condemns Tehran's remarks that Israel should be wiped off the map and also believes that solving any regional problem should not be viewed through the prism of conflict with Iran. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Monday tensions between Israel and Iran are escalating and there are historical reasons for that, Lavrov said at the opening of the Valdai International Discussions Club conference. Russia and the Middle East playing on all fields. We have stated many times that we won't accept the statements that Israel is as a Zionist state should be destroyed and wiped off the map. I believe this is an absolute wrong way to advance one's own interests, Lavrov stressed. By the same token, he goes on to say, we oppose attempts to view any regional problem through the prism of fighting Iran. He noted this is happening in Syria, Yemen, and even the latest developments around the Palestinian issue, including Washington's announcements of its decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israeli capital, are largely motivated by this anti-Iran stance, Lavrov emphasized. I might mention also, though, that Russia too said that they would acknowledge that Jerusalem, West Jerusalem, would be the capital of Israel under a Palestinian agreement that they would work out together. But nonetheless, you still see somewhat of a nice neutral stance there with Foreign Minister Lavrov of Russia over Israel and the Iran situation, calling on both sides basically to respect one another's rights. In this case here, of course, we know Prime Minister Netanyahu continues to be concerned that Iran is smuggling weapons to Hezbollah. Hezbollah certainly has always been a threat to Israel's security on the northern border. But, you know, take the advice. Perhaps it would be better for Israel if we did kind of ease off on these constant tensions of threats going back both ways. And at this point right now, what's concerning more to me is that Prime Minister Netanyahu could make a rash decision with so much allegation swirling around him over his misuse of well, I don't want to go into all the issues there, but there are a number of them now. More aides are being arrested. People from from one of the internet companies there, Bezik, inside of Israel, they've been arresting people there. Just a whole whirlwind of allegations against the prime minister. And but I'm more in agreement there with Siman Tov, though, that God will use Netanyahu, whether it be for good or worse, or good or bad, but to actually bring about the conflict that will cause Israel to go to her knees. And I can see that happening with all the pressure he's under to resign at this particular point now. Also moving as well, Russian Center for Syrian Reconciliation comes under a massive fire of mortar shells being lobbed in. According to reports, there have been no Russians that were injured. They do say that a couple of Russians were shell-shocked and one Syrian was injured, but no deaths were reported there. But it's the second time Russian military forces, whether it be contractors or actual military forces, have come under a shelling there in the region. And of course, the NATO chief warns growing nuclear threat from North Korea and Russia. Has to throw Russia right up under the bus there. This here is the North Korea, excuse me, one second here. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg got up and spoke at this conference here and spoke very candidly that he felt like that Russia developing all the new nuclear weapons was the next threat. But not long after he got up, then we also had a German minister that got up that seemed to quieten the situation down a little bit, taking a different tone. General Mattis was also there but did not speak at the event. But the thing is why all this Russia-phobia just never seems to die. But then I began to look at some other things that are going on. Marine Times is reporting when hell freezes over how the Corps plans to win a cold weather fight in Russia or North Korea. There is definitely a growing consensus of going to war with Russia. For what? This is something that really gets me. For what? What in the world? Why do we need to go to war with Russia? What's the purpose in all of this? It's just really troubling. And I guess Russia's not taking this very lightly either. Meeting and the permanent members of the Security Council have been meeting. They're discussing all these threats that are going on right now at the same time while Jens Stoltenberg is saying there at the meeting inside of Munich, Germany there, that Russia is the greatest threat along with North Korea of a nuclear war. Russia is realizing that something's going to have to be done. Syria is becoming a powder keg, just waiting to explode. And when they thought they had calmed the situation down, but of course, as we've looked at this from a biblical aspect, we know there's no calming it down. We know that there's no defeating ISIS and expecting that this will all go away. We saw Rex Tillerson. It's funny. The Trump administration, and I don't know if you can blame it on Trump, blame it on his administration, whatever. 1 week they're for this group. The next week they throw that group under the bus and they run back to Turkey to this murderous Prime Minister Erdogan, and they embrace him once again. After he's gassed the people there, used napalm on Afrin and burnt civilians to death, all types of illegal crimes going on there. It's a major mess, and oh yes, well, we have to embrace him. That kind of goes for the par for the course, you might say. Now, this is an archived footage. Let me just make this clear. This is an archived footage from 2013. But let me make it clear what it is in this archived footage of 2013. That's a 747 on your screen, commercial airline coming in for a landing. And these are U.S.-backed rebels firing on a commercial airliner with automatic weapons. This is the type of thugs we are backing as an American country. And we say that Bashar al-Assad is a bad guy? Really? So it's okay for us to back a bunch of thugs over in Syria to do that type of act? Again, this was in 2013, but they're just doing everything they can to fill this plane full of holes. How many of the passengers were injured as a result of gunfire piercing this plane? And listen to all the gunfire going off. This is a crime. And they say that Bashar al-Assad's a bad guy. And these are the guys we're supporting. Only imagine what could happen in real life in the very near future. I'm very concerned. And I think about this too. We got, some people out there, you back people that you think are great people, yet they're over here in America training FEMA. I see Christian people backing someone because they're Israeli. They're a believer. And they train FEMA. Don't you know that FEMA considers the Christian people the #1 terrorist threat in America? Guys, wake up a little bit. I think it's time that we start really getting serious here on Israeli News Live. Don't even pull any punches. Just tell it like it is. Just really come out and say it like it is. I think it's getting about time. By the way, too, and I'm sorry to get on a note like that there. I'm a little bit troubled as I see things that are unraveling here in the Middle East. I know it's supposed to happen, all right? Get me. I understand all that. As Simantov was on yesterday, he said that Prime Minister Netanyahu, he is the man for the job. He even said Trump is the man for the job. But he made the point clear. He said, I don't say that they're going to do good things. They're going to do bad things because we know prophecy has got to be fulfilled. Those Arabic nations are going to come against Israel. They're going to kill 2/3 of the nation, but he says it'll drive Israel to her knees in repentance. Then the Mashiach will come. Then the Messiah will come. So no doubt they will definitely escalate it. And Netanyahu may have already escalated it to the point to where there's no return. I don't know the answer to that. But one thing's for sure, I do know he's going out of power because that's a biblical prophecy you can't get around. But isn't it interesting, even as Simon Tov said, he will be the one that brings the trouble on Israel? As he said, he's God's man to bring all this trouble on Israel in order to bring about the prophecy. In Micah also it says, is there no king in thee? And now you're like a woman in travail. There shows the trouble. But it also seems to indicate that the king is going out of power at the same time the trouble comes upon Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu may do some very rash decisions here with all the threats. And I know people talk about it's just cigars and champagne. There's about 4 or 5 different cases they're working on. And I don't say he's guilty. And like I've said before, I don't want to just see him up and resign. But at the same time, I realize you can't sit there and go hold hands with the Pope of Rome and say it's a good thing. I don't care who it is, which politician it is. When we begin to see all these politicians sucking up to the Vatican, that's, oh my gosh. I'm just going to hold back for a little bit on this. We watch what happens, then you'll see. But again, this video is from 2013, but someone had posted on Twitter here just recently, and these were the rebels that the U.S. was backing, still backing them, sitting there trying to load a passenger plane full of bullets. I mean, I can't even imagine why we would support that. It's unbelievable. Anyway, just in closing, friends, let me just remind you, those of you that have been ordering books, we have been packaging a lot of these books today. A lot of people have ordered books. But we are getting, I'm really asking you to really pay attention to what I'm saying here. A lot of people, they'll say, I want a book, please send me a book, but not including their address. So we have no idea where to send the book. My wife has decided one of the best things we can do is if someone has ordered that they wanted a book and we don't get a response back about where their address is, we'll just refund your money. We love you and we hate to do that, but we just don't know any other way to deal with that situation. And then some people are ordering from out of the country. We can't ship out of the country unless you email us first to let us know that you're wanting a book, you live in a certain country, so we can find out what the postage would be. Some cases, postage is very high, and it may even be better to order it directly from our website itself, because our publishing company has agreements, I believe, in Europe as well, to be able to send books that way there. So we were only looking at shipping to the continental United States because that makes it a little bit more affordable. It's like $4 for shipping if you do it in the continental United States. Once you go outside of the country, it can be $10, $20, $30. You just never know what the cost will be. It all depends on the country you're shipping the book to. So that's why I say inside the continental United States, we can ship the book for $18. Please specify, though, that you've ordered the book. Because some people, they send, we get little small donations from people to help keep the ministry on the air, and sometimes people send $30, $25 or whatever, and some people are actually, and it may just be only a donation to help the ministry, and we greatly appreciate that. But we don't know, with the book campaign going on right now, is it just a donation, or are you wanting the book as part of what we were doing here? So please let us know that you are ordering the book and your address. And if you're wanting more than one book, please make sure you multiply, like if you want 2 books, 2 times 18 or 3 times 18, whatever the case may be. We've had that as well happen too. So, because if you ship more books, it's a lot more in postage as well. Anyway, we love you. We thank you, though, and we hope these books will be a blessing to you. I've been praying over each book as well. And we trust that will certainly bless your heart. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you for watching. I'm Stephen Brennan with Israeli News Live. Shalom.